Hey guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here to talk about the Swoop exclusive interview that she did with Joshua David Evans, which is Colleen Ballinger's ex-husband. This was such a fantastic video and I have many thoughts, so this will probably be a longer video, but if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys, so first things first, I want to extend a huge moment of appreciation for Swoop and her team, which she has acknowledged her team is very small, but I also know that even if she has a small team, they still obviously are just all putting so much work into this series about Colleen. And I am new to Swoop's channel, and I really appreciate her just level of being fair, because I feel like with situations like this, you know, it would be it would be very easy to go outside the lines and cross over into just like that mean-spirited kind of content that floats around YouTube quite frequently, just because so many people are against Colleen Ballinger right now. That would be the easy thing to do. But Swoop has taken this topic and dug in to the most nitty-gritty, tiny details, and she has covered them in all fairness. Most importantly, she has also asked some really hard-hitting questions, which I will cover in this video as well, because even if everybody is, not everybody, even if a lot of people are against Colleen and a lot of people are on Josh's side, if we're talking about this prior relationship, there are still things that Joshua has done, as he's fully acknowledged and taken accountability for, that need to be talked about. And instead of just glazing over those, Swoop asked him straight out the hard questions. Because if this is going to be the interview, then obviously those questions need to be asked in all fairness. Because this is not going to turn into a 20-part series of back and forth, back and forth. She really covered it all. She covered it with grace, kindness, and compassion. And I just wanted to take a moment and thank her for her work, thank her to team members for their hard work, and really setting a good example of what commentary is all about. It's about being blunt and asking the hard questions, and even if you're very direct, you can still be fair and be very direct. Sometimes being direct is inappropriately labeled as being mean. That's just the way that the internet is. But I think that Swoop is somebody who has confidence in her content, and I think that shows. And I'm really happy to have found her through this, and I'm excited to see what else she comes up with in the future. I haven't had time to really watch any of her prior content, but I will definitely be keeping an eye going forward. I've just been running behind, you know, life is busy, stuff is busy, and a lot of her content is long form, so it's great to like play in the background, but then some of the stuff, it's like you want to see what's going on the screen. So either way, that none of that really matters, but I am happy that I found her. So let's get into this interview. The interview is just shy of 3 hours and 40 minutes. Right now it has 1.6 million views. It has 78,000 likes to 573 dislikes, which is an amazing ratio. I love to see that. And again, she broke it into chapters, which I find so helpful for long form content. Now, I'm not going to just react to her entire video because I don't think that's fair. I think if you guys are following this situation, then you should watch it. If you're interested and you have some time, go watch it, give it a view, give it a like, and take a look at some of the details that I don't discuss in my video. I'm going to talk about some of my key takeaways, but I don't want to just react to her entire video because that's just not what I'm here to do. I'm going to do this just like I did the Johnny Silvestri Swoop video, the part 3. And we're going to focus on some of the chapters that I had the biggest reactions to, the biggest responses. And then I'll link it down below and you guys can watch it in its entirety, or you can just watch the parts that I don't talk about, whatever you want to do. So we're going to start out with the chapter called The Early Days, and this obviously goes over the early days of Josh and his relationship with Colleen. And then we will move on to Trouble in Paradise, and that's where things get really wild. So let's just start with this section, and I think for any of you guys who didn't follow Josh during his time on YouTube, this will also maybe give you guys a little bit more background as to like who he is and kind of what he did on the platform when he was still active.
I was born in Macon, Georgia, to very conservative parents. I've always been drawn to entertainment. I was obsessed with anything like music related growing up. That led to being cast in musicals in high school, and I loved it. I loved every second of it, and I had made videos since I was a kid. And then when YouTube came out and I was aware of it, I was aware of it back in 2008, and I would watch people like Smosh and Shay Carl.
Briefly tell me what your role is in this Colleen Ballinger story from your perspective.
Early on it was, I'm the boyfriend of this Miranda person, and then that kind of, it took hold when I proposed and I made a video out of it. And then it skyrocketed, it changed, and then I had an audience. So then I definitely was perceived as like the boy next door, the guy that maybe you'll find a guy like Josh one day. Not to say that like I'm some great prize, but I knew how they were viewing me, and I tried to remain as authentic as I could. That evolved into, now I'm the fiance. And look at all the things that he's doing. I wanted to put my heart into it. And there was a chunk that it felt perfect. Everything felt perfect. Then we got married. And when that happened, it just all kind of started going downhill. It became almost like they were watching a soap opera and trying to read between the lines. And I could feel that they were making comments about what's going on. It feels different. The sad part is it was different. I started to feel almost like a character, like a sitcom character, like I was replaceable. One of the questions I would consistently get was, if you weren't married to her, what YouTuber would you want to be married to? And it always struck me odd, because I'm like, why would you even ask me that? Like, this is a real life. This is a real marriage. This is a real relationship. I don't sit here and think, well, if it's not her, which one would I want, you know? And so I would address that on camera and be like, we're not sitcom characters. This is real. So I'm not gonna answer that question. And to then have it evolve into real life, it did feel like I was swapped out. It did feel like I was replaced. And no one ever addressed that there's a new husband in the mix. I was there for 7 years and now I'm not. And everyone's okay with it. Maybe who I am and what I am has never had any value to them or even to myself. I am replaceable. That's a hard thing to swallow. When the public thinks that is one thing. When you feel like the person that you trusted most treated you like that, I mean, it crushed me. It crushed. I mean, I was already an insecure person.
It's a really tough thing to put your relationship out onto social media. Obviously, I've made choices that are best for me and my household, so I'm not saying that it's bad for everybody, but I also think that a lot of people don't think of the flip side of it, of what if you do get divorced and all of this is playing out on social media and people are picking sides, and you have one person who knows that the other person is being doxxed, harassed, bullied, silenced because of your fans choosing your side, and you're not doing anything to control that, which Josh talks about a little bit later in this video. It's just very difficult. And again, I'm not saying that it's you know, if people do choose to do that, they're necessarily bad people. I just don't think that they think of this could go south and end up hurting one of us. Because let's be honest, I mean, people get divorced all the time. How many social media couples do you know of that have either broken up, separated, or divorced? I'm sure that you guys can name at least a few. And typically, because their fans are parasocially connected, you have fans choosing one side or the other. And especially if we're only hearing one side of the story, I've literally talked about that a lot recently because of Jessica Kent and that entire situation, which as a total side note, no, I'm not covering her anymore, but it comes to mind because I've talked about that. We're literally hearing one side of the story, and with the Colleen and Josh divorce, we were only hearing from Colleen and her narrative and her what ended up to be a lot of embellishments and flat out lies that she was using in order to paint a certain picture that was not full of truth, and then enraged her fans. And in exchange, Joshua received the wrath and fury of a bunch of teens to people in their 20s going after him because they were believing everything that Colleen was saying and just standing her until the end of time. And some of them are still doing that current day, today, which is wild. Okay, let's go on to Trouble in Paradise. This section is a little bit longer, but this really gives a more clear picture as to some of the things that were going on behind the scenes. And this part I found really interesting because it's just such a crystal clear reminder of these YouTubers and YouTube couples, or, you know, even like celebrity couples and things like that. I don't think that any of my subscribers, or probably not many of my subscribers, are the types to look at these couples and think that everything is just sunshine and rainbows every day. I doubt that. But when you have a fan base of young people who are consuming your content, they are absolutely just thinking that everything is good to go. And then when things separate and they have one person, again, controlling the narrative and painting this picture of the other person being bad, that's where you get just the worst parts of the internet becoming a reality for the person who is now enemy number one. And that is so scary. Nobody should have to live in fear or, you know, be driven to the darkest places mentally simply because their ex, who's a famous or semi-famous YouTuber influencer, is painting them out to be the bad person and have unleashed their fans on them. I cannot imagine some of the times that Joshua has had. And I want to take a quick moment and just talk about his current wife, Pamela. He's known Pamela longer than he's known Colleen. Like, they were literally college sweethearts. And the things that Pamela has been through with Josh and the support system that she provided to him during that period of time, I think Pamela is the type of person that you don't come across many times in a lifetime. I think that she is a real gem, and I think that she should also be recognized in this story, because I sometimes wonder, I don't know. I wonder things. I wonder, what if this happened? What if that didn't happen? But the one thing that I can say is that Pamela is a gem.
Public knew that Josh and Colleen had dated from 2009 to 2015, and for the most part, they presented themselves as a happy, loving, carefree couple. But as we've learned time and again, what the public sees isn't always the reality of the relationship when the cameras are turned off. Do you think, like, do you have a moment where you had a realization of, now we're married and just something has changed? Was there some...
I don't think it was one single moment. Colleen and I always had a difficult relationship from the very beginning. It was very passionate and very explosive, but never truly consistent. And I was so infatuated that I just ignored the red flags and kept fighting for it, kept pushing to make things better. When you really love someone, you don't just let it go because it's hard. You adapt, you evolve, you compromise. I felt like I did that over and over and over. The thing that changed really was when we got married, it kind of felt like any effort to meet me in the middle stopped. How dare I ask for something? How dare I say, could you maybe not film tonight and just sit and have dinner with me? I tried to take us to couples therapy. She was very resistant. I was so down. I was so down. I don't mind talking about my feelings, obviously. She only went...
You could totally, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I can totally see Colleen just acting completely inconvenienced by literally her husband asking her to maybe not film tonight. Can you do that tomorrow? Can we have dinner? Like, I could see her just pitching a fit over that, because Colleen Ballinger is somebody who, like some other YouTubers, of course not all, because that's just an unfair statement to make, but there are a lot of YouTubers who, once they reach that point of success of, wow, this is making me way more money than I ever had even imagined, it turns into this thing that they're constantly chasing. I've talked about hustle culture in previous videos, actually quite a long time ago now that I think about it, but the idea of hustle culture is so freaking toxic. It is, I cannot stand when I see these creators online just, oh, you have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and you have to have a pre-morning routine, and then you go to the gym, and then you have to do this, and then you have to, fill out your daily planner and write in your journal, and walk 4.5 miles and do all of this kind of stuff. And I don't know, I understand wanting to be driven, but when you allow your drive to put a wedge between you and literally the person that you're supposed to be madly in love with and want to spend the rest of your life with, that to me is where it crosses over into, like, this is actually really sad, because your hustle mentality is going to leave you literally, divorced and alone, unless you find somebody who's just a complete pushover. And maybe that's who she found in Eric, and maybe he just kind of takes it for what it is. I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate too much, but it can definitely turn into a mess. I think that part is undeniable.
A handful of times, and I would always go, regardless if she would show up or not. And every single session, she didn't want to talk about her. It was always me, my problem, what I was doing wrong, what I needed to redirect in my brain. And it was infuriating and sad, because it's just constantly just, you're wrong, not her, you're wrong.
What, like when you say things like, she saying that you're wrong, what was that about? Just, was that about content that you're making, or how you were approaching the relationship? Or
I felt disrespected a lot in that relationship. There's a misconception out there that I was some controlling husband, boyfriend guy that was not supportive of what she did. And it always bothered me, because I always rooted for her. I went to so many shows, I participated in videos. Yes, it helped me out too, but I never once said, don't do this, don't take that show, don't tour right now. I never ever guilted her for that. All I ever wanted was, hey, if you're gonna do this, can you talk to me on the phone? And it wasn't like, please talk to me for 2 hours a day. It was just normal. To me, it felt like a normal request. And it was just...
It seems like Colleen had a problem balancing. And that's where, like, a few minutes ago when I was talking about hustle culture and this hustle mentality, it's the lack of balance. It's the lack of being able to say, okay, well, I need to do this, and I need to spend time with this person that I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with and I'm madly in love with. And I also need to have this meeting with my agent and talk about upcoming tour dates. It seems like there was a lack of being able to focus on multiple things simultaneously, and she chose to focus on the thing that was making her money instead of the thing that you would think would be feeding her soul. She chose money over her marriage, is what it seems like based on my perspective of what Josh is sharing here. I want to talk about, let's go to the cheating section, because this was when my jaw really hit the floor. I think a lot of us already knew that there was, infidelity involved in the marriage between these two. But to hear his perspective and his alleged recollection of the events that were taking place, it really confirmed a lot of what a lot of us were already discussing. So let's get into the cheating chapter.
got married again to her haters back off co-star Eric Stocklin.
There were just a lot of times that I knew she was hanging out with him. I knew that he had been over to her apartment in Canada, or that she went over to his place and, quote, everyone was there. It's just hard to talk about. There was a time right before the divorce happened, and it was a VidCon, and she didn't stay at VidCon very long. She, at that point, kind of thought, I'm bigger and better than this. Well, I loved it. But she left and went back to our house that we had. Someone communicated and relayed to me, hey, while you're out at VidCon, she's having a few people over to the house. And I was like, who? And they said, Eric, Cory and a romantic interest, and Rachel and her boyfriend at the time. And I just thought it was weird.
That is so weird because you're literally married and you're having two other couples over. I don't care if it's your best friend and your sister. It's still, these two people are coupled up and you're married, and then you're going to have this other single guy come over. Y'all already know, and if you don't know, you're going to know now. I hate cheaters, okay? Cheaters to me are scummy, they're cowards, they are just the worst of the worst. For me personally, when it comes to common issues that come up in relationships, I think that infidelity sucks. It leaves people with lifelong issues, mental health problems, confidence problems. They won't trust people for a very long time, if ever again. And obviously, I'm not putting cheating above things like SA or DV. Those are the worst of the worst. But for me, when I think of other common issues that come up in relationships, like, man, if you're going to, I don't know, if you're going to cheat, like I always say, like, just divorce. Get a divorce and then go do whatever you want to do with this new person. I don't know. Everything that Josh went through, and then also considering that he was cheated on, I don't know, that's pain that I wouldn't want to put on my enemies. I wouldn't wish that for anybody. That sucks. And again, going back to Pamela, I am so glad that Pamela was there to give him the support that he needed, because I cannot imagine, even after everything that he has shared, I know that there are details that he hasn't shared, and they were probably deeply painful and extremely hard to get through. And who's in the background of all of this? Colleen Ballinger and her toxic ass fans.
And so I was supposed to spend the night that night near VidCon because it was a long drive. Something in my gut said, no, go back home. So I finished the show. I didn't tell her, and I got in the car and I drove back. She kept messaging me like, are you in your hotel room? Where are you? Where are you? And within the last probably 15 minutes or so of the drive, I came clean and I said, I'm actually almost home. And
those texts that he was explaining about, like, hey, where are you? Where are you? Just hearing that and knowing that he was driving driving to his home really triggered me. Just hearing that be told. People don't deserve to be cheated on. They just don't. I think that yeah.
when I walked through those doors, it reeked of alcohol and cigarettes, and no one was there. Nobody was there. And then I went upstairs, and she was sitting on our bed, playing her ukulele. I could tell she had
Not the damn ukulele. I give it to Swoop here for not cracking up laughing, because this is long after, this interview was filmed long after Colleen did that ukulele damn toxic gossip train wreck. Maybe her squinting was her trying to keep a straight face, and I give her credit for that. But the damn ukulele, and allowing, because Eric smokes, or he smoked, I don't know if he still smokes current day. You're there, allegedly cheating on your husband, allowing this guy to just, booze it up, smoke his cigarettes, having an affair. Just what a class act, Colleen.
drinks in her. No big deal. Have a drink. It's your house. She smelled of smoke, and I was like, what's going on? Where is everybody? Oh, they had to go. They had to leave. And I just thought, just the red flags were popping off in my head. Like, why would you have everyone leave when you knew I was showing up? Unless you didn't want me.
Unless somebody else that was there that night has or does confirm this, I don't think that anybody else was even there. Or maybe they were there for just a few minutes and then left. But I think that for the majority of the time, it was her and Eric. And that's just my personal opinion, my speculation based on how I feel right now. I don't think that this was some kind of like social gathering. I think that it might have been a very short gathering and then other people left and it was just her and Eric. And, you know, she, a married woman, was sitting there boozing it up and smoking cigarettes with Eric Stockland, knowing that her husband was literally attending an event that she was too good for. Just ew.
To be around it. But the final words I said to her face, the last thing I ever said to her face, as I was leaving, I turned to her and I said, when you're effing Eric in our bed, I want you to think of me. And I said it right to her face, eyes locked. And her response was, it's not like that, he has a girlfriend. And then what was exposed very soon after was that they had started a relationship. Mm-hmm. It sucks. That's the last thing I said to her.
That's like if you have not said anything to her.
She threatened me a few months later through text that if I continued to talk about her in any way, shape, or form is what she said. If you mention me in any way, I'm going to get lawyers on you. And my response to that was her branded slogan. All I said was spread happiness. And that was the last thing I wrote to her with a little sunflower because that's what she always used.
Always uncomfortable with Eric and her relationship. Anytime I had an inkling, do you have a thing for that person? It only happened like 3 or 4 times. But every single time I had an inkling, it happened.
Sorry, when you say it happened, are you saying that she had cheated multiple times, like with different people, or?
In the first 3 months of us dating, I had this weird feeling in my gut that we were exclusive. We were saying, I love you. It was this whirlwind romance. I had this feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. I didn't know what it was. And I did a foul thing. She walked out. She was doing something. She left the apartment. And I pulled up the laptop that she was on and I read some Facebook private messages that she had been sending. And it broke my heart. I caught her sending back and forth messages to a guy that I'd already brought up. Hey, who is this guy and why is he saying this kind of stuff to you? Like, I don't think that's appropriate. And she would always be like, oh no, he's gay or he's not into me. What I found was that in those messages, she was saying exactly to him what she had said to me when we were first starting to date and get to know each other. She was using the same catchphrases, the same, you're the best in the West. That sticks out to me because she used to say that about me. And she said it to him and I confronted her about it. The next day, I was still upset. And I remember her saying, if this is how you're going to be, if you're not over this now, then I can't be in a relationship with you, period. If you're still going to be upset. And I thought to myself, but I'm upset because I caught you talking to another guy, all lovey-dovey, all sweet. Now,
so obviously, based on Joshua's recollection of everything that he went through with Colleen and things that he saw and experienced, this is not somebody who is faithful. And here's my thing. If you want to say, is a cheater the worst person ever? No, there are things worse that you can do to somebody in a relationship, obviously. But if you are unfaithful, to me, like there's no coming back from that. And somebody who shows a pattern of being unfaithful, if you're okay with doing it once, you're going to do it again. You're going to do it with multiple different people. And putting your partner at risk for STIs, or what if something happens and, you know, you get the person pregnant. Like, there's just too many what ifs. There's literally no care for the other person in the relationship for the things that you're doing with this other person. I don't know. For me, it's not the worst thing ever, but it is definitely lower than low. And frankly, it makes me sick to my stomach to know that not only did she make his life a living hell, but she was also unfaithful. So for me, Colleen Ballinger is garbage. Like, you want to talk about morals? Below 0 for Colleen. Not only was she, based on Josh's experience, she was not a good partner. She was not good during their relationship. And then the way that it ended and all of the things that he went through as the aftermath of their divorce. And she didn't do anything to stop it. She literally lied to Shane Dawson by trying to say that Joshua was flying off the hinges and, you know, basically acting crazy. She would talk badly about Josh to other people.
I was shown some things when I was at Playlist in Washington, D.C. in 2016. Receipts, proof of things that she was doing.
Can you tell me what you're referring to?
Part of me still wants to protect her. Because what she was doing was awful.
At the very least, can you tell me what it has to do with?
This specific one was what she was saying about me behind the scenes on our honeymoon to another massive YouTuber. She basically said, I told Josh some things and he wrecked our hotel room.
She told this to another large
Very
creator.
large YouTuber, yes.
Okay. Can I ask who that was?
Why not? That's Shane Dawson.
Okay.
We went on our honeymoon and we decided while we were in Hawaii, let's go to the beach with no cameras. And let's say new vows that are just for us. No one else will hear them, see them, experience them. And it was one of the most beautiful moments at the time in my life. To know that within 24 hours of us saying our vows all over again, she's telling one of the biggest YouTubers at the time that she said some stuff to me, I didn't like it, and broke things when we didn't have a single fight on that trip.
This is what she told Shane Dawson.
Yes.
What actually happened?
None of that
Were
happened.
you told something and then you got emotional or?
No. There was no fight, there was no argument. It was actually a really pleasant honeymoon experience. We didn't have any altercations, we didn't have anything. I was at Playlist, I had just had dinner with her family. She wasn't there. She was off doing some other thing. And then Steve Green was there with his now wife, Nikki, and they waved me over. And I said, okay, cool. We were just talking and laughing and just having a good time away from screaming teenagers. And then Nikki stopped and said, I can't hold this in anymore. And Steve was giving her a look like, no, don't do this. And she looked at me, and I'm paraphrasing here. Mm-hmm. She said, I'm supposed to hate you. But after spending just a few minutes with you, I don't, and I'm confused because the things that I've been shown about you don't add up to the person I'm talking to and the person that Steve says you are. She pulled out her phone, or it might have been his phone, but it was one of their phones, and they slid it across the table. And I'm like, what's this? And she just said, read it. And it was about me. And I was like, what is this? And they said, it's a screenshot of a text message between Colleen and Shane Dawson. And I looked at the date, and I'm like, that's during our honeymoon. She texted that during our honeymoon, that I abused her, that I went ballistic. We didn't even have a fight. We didn't have an argument. She said, I'm not the only one that has this. This text has been passed around.
Who was passing it around? Was it Shane or was it Colleen?
Shane sent it. I don't think Colleen did. Okay. I mean, that's me assuming, but.
But you know that Colleen texted this to Shane,
I saw both of their interaction.
Screenshot started getting shared with other.
Every YouTuber I could think of at that time that I'm like, oh, so they all sit here and think that I went crazy on a honeymoon when nothing happened. And in that moment, that's when it all dawned on me, why in the world did you think that you were safe when she did that kind of thing about everybody else? Everybody else, she had shit to say.
That was a common thing that she would do?
All the time. It's like a sport for her. She's a pro athlete when it comes to that. And we wrapped up the conversation and like we hugged and I excused myself to the hotel room, my hotel room, just me. And I sat there and like, I remember looking at my phone and it was a picture of us from our honeymoon. And it went dark and it just fell and thudded on the floor. And I sat there, the sun had pretty much gone down. I sat there facing a wall with the phone on the ground, just going, what have I got myself into?
Why do you think that she would send this message to Shane?
This is something I've never figured out. Because when I got wind of that, then I started seeing more stuff. And that wasn't the only thing. She would make fun of me, dog on me, say I was embarrassing to her.
Just as a reminder, I've reached out to Colleen Ballinger for comment on all of this, and she has not returned comment. This is genuinely something that I'd like to hear her point of view on, and I am fully acknowledging that what we just heard is Joshua's perspective on the matter.
I had a show with Julian Solomita and Arnold Telegarda, and we had a little...
When you said that there was a big party bus and these YouTubers and everything, do you remember what show that was?
That was the opening show of Shadow Tour. We only did 2 shows.
The Irvine show then?
Yeah, California.
So while she's with you, there seemingly to support you,
right?
And you're saying that she was basically talking about you to these YouTubers who were all there to also watch the show.
I will insert some additional clips of other stuff that Josh shared during this interview, but the whole thing to me is just she's showing patterns of not being a good person disrespecting the tech people during her Miranda live shows.
The amount of times I had to apologize to the tech crew and the people running the event because of how rude she was to them. Almost like, I'm a queen, don't talk to me, talk to my assistant. And I would look at that and go, what are you doing? They're here it's their job. The least you could do is like give them eye contact. I would try to make excuses because I didn't want her to look bad. And then I would try to talk to her about it. And then it was me being wrong again. I don't want to paint a picture like she was just this monster that just spewed hate towards her fans, because she would talk negatively or make fun of someone or joke about what she was going to do with all the gifts on the tour bus. And I just thought to myself, I would never talk like that. These people are giving us a job. I didn't really love them as people. She loved what they provided for her. She loved the attention, gave her a thrill, and she loved it. But do I think she truly loved her fans? I never really felt like she did. I think she just loved what it gave her.
Not being nice to people. And then on her own YouTube videos, she would sit there and say that the tech people were not respecting her because she was just a YouTuber and she wasn't being treated fairly by the tech people. But then you have Josh here actually saying, no, it was the other way around. So is it a he said, she said thing? At this point, I don't think Josh has anything to gain by coming out all of these years later and giving his experience on what it was like to be married to her. That is how I honestly feel. Hey guys, I also wanted to pop in here and add that in fact, I think that it's riskier for him to have come out with this, which helps me believe him and believe in why he came out with this interview when he did. I think that it's risky because he has a normal job and has slowly been able to rebuild his life. I just don't think that he has much to gain by coming out and not being truthful about what his experience was with Colleen Ballinger. And that's just my opinion, obviously. When I look at two people sharing their experience, if somebody is going to not be truthful, you have to look at, do they have a reason to not be truthful? Do they have a reputation to save? Do they have a career to save? Do they need to go on with this lie because they need their followers to believe them in this? Like, who has more to gain? Josh has gone on to be completely silent for 6-7 years, been berated and bullied and harassed, and has completely left social media behind, gotten a normal, job outside of being a content creator, and has tried to rebuild his life with his current wife, Pamela, while dealing with alcoholism, harassment, boxing, bullying, threats from Colleen that if he shared his story, then she would get lawyers involved. You heard him say that himself.
Don't speak about me, don't say my name, all of those types of things. Did you feel that for a period of time, that there was a level of silencing that was being done to you in regards to being able to speak about your experience in that relationship?
I absolutely felt silenced. And I felt like I didn't know specifically then that she was orchestrating things, because what she presented online was not go after him. But what she was saying to people in DMs was, he's this, he's that, making fun of me, critiquing things, making claims about me that are not true, things that never happened. But anytime I did try to open up, the amount of hate, the passionate hate that I would get from the people online, it was just never ending. And even when I would stop talking about it or alluding to it, and I would post a normal thing about nothing regarding that, the comments would be full of it. Full of, go end yourself. You don't deserve to exist. I know where your next show is. I ended up hosting another end of VidCon party the next year, and the amount of death threats I got before that event terrified me, because at this point, Christina Grimmie had been killed at a meet and greet at a venue that I had performed in. She was not even like a personality type. She's just a wonderful hearted singer that has so much to give. And I had the thought of, well, if someone is innocent and to me as pure as her, it happened to her, well, there's a lot of people that don't like me. I have to take it seriously. I can't just be like, it's nothing. They're just being dramatic. I didn't believe that. I was scared to go on. I was scared. I had to tell my manager at the time, and they gave me security. I had never had security before. And it was so daunting and weird to think the reason why I have security, just to go from backstage to the stairs of the stage, was because someone might try to do something. And then that catapulted into, my sister was getting those death threats. My little sister. I took it very seriously, and I got angry. I got so angry because I knew that Colleen was aware of it. And I'm like, she could say one thing and stop this.
I was going to say, she could have just one statement, one tweet could go a long way to provide some security for you.
But that wouldn't serve a purpose for her. She's not willing to step out and say, don't do this to him. She liked it. Again, like that moment on the bus, how dare I make her look bad in front of her fans? It was that times a billion. This wasn't a little moment on stage. This is, hey, he might say that maybe I'm not the greatest person. Maybe I mistreat people. Maybe I'm very selfish. So let me paint him to be far worse than he could ever say about me, and I'll shut him up. It worked. I did shut up. Am I innocent? No. Did we argue? Yeah. Did I say things that I regret? Absolutely. There's also a part of like control that still exists in your own heart and in your head where you feel like, I still have to vouch for this person. Because what if we work it out? What if things get okay? I don't want to badmouth her because we could work through this. I always thought we can work through it. We made vows. That's serious stuff. There had been so many times throughout those 7 years before we were married, when we were dating, that people would sit me down and be like, what are you doing? She strings you along. She messes with your heart. She breaks your heart. And right when you heal and you're leaving, she pulls you back in. It's like you're a toy when someone else might have the ability to play with it. She didn't like that.
There was also a piece in here on Cory and Jojo. I'll include that. I found that to be really interesting.
Now, the moment that many people have been waiting for, the questions that we asked Joshua about Colleen's alleged toilet cleaner, Cory and Jojo. Because, in case you didn't know, Colleen Ballinger's best friend in the world is a man who is also her assistant, somebody she has called her soulmate, who has lived with Colleen at her house over the course of 2 marriages now. Now, Cory has his own allegations, which are a story for another day, but I was curious about what life for Joshua was like with Colleen's real number one, Cory and Jojo. What was life like with Cory and Jojo?
It was hard because I never felt like I had a marriage or a relationship. I felt like I was a part of something plus him, and I was there too. Everywhere I look, there he is. I wake up in the morning, there he is. I go to bed at night, he's going into his room. She had made a post on Instagram, and she said that, this is my soulmate. And I remember looking at that and being like, well, I would never say that about anybody other than my person.
Do you think that was directed at you in any way?
I think she always knew what she was doing. And then she played this kind of like naive, what? That made you upset? Oh, I would never think that. And it's like, but the word soulmate is a pretty big word to say to somebody. You just got married and your soulmate is Cory and Jojo.
I want to talk about this one clip because he talks about JoJo Siwa. Since I just talked about JoJo defending Colleen on the Howie Mandel podcast, I found this clip really interesting. So let's watch this quickly.
It was about this point that Joshua brought up someone completely on his own that I hadn't been planning on asking him about, JoJo Siwa, a former reality star made famous in her appearances on the show Dance Moms before transitioning to a career on YouTube. Discussion online about JoJo Siwa's relationship with the Ballinger family. Now, JoJo has not come forward either negatively or positively about her experiences, but for context,
obviously Swoop was saying this before JoJo went on the Howie podcast and said what she said about Colleen, so I understand the difference in timing. But as an update, since I'm filming this right now, I wanted to say that now she is fully supporting Colleen in this.
She has been a collaborator with Colleen Ballinger, her sister Rachel Ballinger, and Joshua David Evans at multiple points in her life, and to this day remains public friends with at least Rachel Ballinger from what we can tell. But after the Colleen and Josh divorce, JoJo initially took Josh's side and continued to collaborate with him for at least a year following the divorce before the two had an undiscussed falling out that led to her becoming closer to the Ballingers.
I remember seeing JoJo and Josh still collab on his channel after his divorce was announced with Colleen. Leave it up to Colleen to just have a temper tantrum over that, and can't have anyone being friends with Josh because you need them on your side and you're she knows that JoJo is a really big YouTuber, and she went on to exploit JoJo on her own channel and build what I find to still be a very creepy and inappropriate friendship. But JoJo was a big creator, and Colleen knows that collabing with JoJo would get a lot of views and clicks. And at the end of the day, I think it's very clear that Colleen Ballinger cares about clicks and what she's making monetarily before she cares about anything else.
Situation with JoJo Siwa that I walked away from because it was starting to get that way, and I was being pressured to continue pulling her over to my side. And I flat out said, I will not. This is after the divorce, so like I'm starting to like snap out of it, right? And to the people that were like, you need to reach out to JoJo because she was very much, a fan of you and favored you, but the Ballingers are trying to get to her and bring her over.
Yeah, we noticed that there was a shift with her in her engagement or interaction with you.
The reason why that happened was because when I was on the telephone, and I won't name names, they were like, if I were you, you should text her back, call her, let her know, DM her that you still want to be in her life. And I said on the phone, I said, I'm not about to try to navigate control over who she likes. It's weird, and I will not do it. And that was one of the first times that post my involvement, I got to make a decision on my own. I knew I could continue being close with JoJo, and I am not going to go down that road. So she's going to have to think I'm a person because I'm not going to engage anymore. And I'm not going to try to sway her over to liking me and believing me and not believing them. And then it happened. I watched it unfold. And the moment she even went on a podcast with Rachel, I believe, she even said, oh yeah, for that year, I didn't talk to you guys because I was, y'all were mad at me because I was, hanging out with Josh or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. I got tweeted that information and I thought, well, okay. Everything I thought was going to happen did happen. And at least I can look at this situation, this one thing, and be like, you did the right thing. You could be doing what I think they have done with her for years now, is to take that name and take that involvement and benefit from it, which is something I used to be a part of. When I have opportunities to do the right thing, I want to take them and do them. Doesn't erase things, but it's the bare minimum of what I could start doing.
I'm so glad that he mentioned the fact that they were benefiting from having JoJo on, quote, their side. And I'm glad that Josh walked away from that, because here's the thing. At the end of the day, as I've always said, adults befriending a child is bizarre. I don't care what the intent is. I don't care how most people feel about this. I find it to be very inappropriate and weird. And Colleen went on to use JoJo as a huge part of her content for years, knowing that JoJo brought in the clicks and views. And that is so bizarre to me. There were a lot of things in this video that they weren't necessarily shocking, but they confirmed a lot for those of us who have been consuming all of this. The last thing I want to focus on in this video is his section about Johnny Silvestri. His section on Johnny is about, it's almost an hour, so it's a good chunk of this 3.5 hour video. There were a lot of things in this that just really made sense. Josh talks about how he wanted to I say befriend, but it was more of a, like, he explains how he grew up in church and he would have like the youth pastors be kind of almost like a big brother role to kids in the church. And he saw that Johnny was sad and needed some help. So he really shed a lot of light on why the Johnny thing even started. He also confirmed a lot of the things that a lot of us already knew as far as Johnny embellishing or just telling flat out lies about Josh. The thing that I've thought about over the last couple of weeks with Johnny and Josh is I truly think that Johnny is somebody who had some form of a crush on Josh and really liked him. I mean, guys, like, let's be honest. Josh is a good-looking guy. I think he's a good-looking guy. He's not necessarily like my cup of tea, but he's a good-looking guy. I think that Johnny saw that and became way too attached to Josh, and I think that's why he felt so he felt as though he was a victim, and he knew that he could capitalize off of it by paralleling his situations that didn't even happen with Josh to what actually did happen between Adam and Colleen. And he could build his YouTube channel off of it, and never thought that people would call him out and catch on to what he was doing. But we did, and everybody's over Johnny. Like, who even cares anymore? Like, I don't know. I'm kind of over the Johnny situation. But this was such a good video. There was just so much that went into it, and that's why I don't want to react to too much of it, because I really want you guys to go watch it. Of course, if you're interested, all of that. But I'm so glad that Josh had this opportunity. I'm glad that he had a voice. I wish that this would have happened earlier on. It sucks that it's been this long, but at least he was able to tell his side, tell his recollection of what happened, express his emotions and the way that Colleen mistreated and lied and essentially tortured him after their divorce. Nobody should have to go through this. I've recently had a situation where, I obviously saw the toxic side of social media, and it really just reminded me, like, there are people on this platform that I don't like and I don't respect, and they probably don't like or respect me either, and that's all good. But even those people, I don't want to see those people doxxed. I don't want to see them harassed. I don't want to see them, take a nosedive with their mental health. I don't want to see that for any of us. We should all be able to be on YouTube, make content, follow the terms of service, make content as long as it's not harming anybody, and we should just all be able to exist. It really sucks that people want to make everybody out to be the bad guy and start this tit for tat thing and send followers after somebody. This is why a lot of people just associate social media with a toxic cesspool of just nothingness. And it's so much more than that. But unfortunately, it does have a really bad side. But anyway, I'm going to tie this video up. Bravo to Swoop and her team. Bravo to Josh. Bravo to Pamela. And I'm just so glad that this video happened. I hope that this allows Josh to heal. Even though I said, we should all be able to make our content and do all of that, I would like to also say that that doesn't apply to everybody. Colleen Ballinger has hurt a lot of people. She has sent her fans after a lot of people, and she has not taken an ounce of accountability or responsibility for her role in the things that she has orchestrated behind the scenes. So, yes, everybody should be able to exist and make their content, but there are certain people that, for me, are excluded from those rules until they show proper accountability. She is one of those people. Do not hurt people on social media and then expect sympathy when toxicity is being sent your way. Having opinions that somebody doesn't like is one thing, but orchestrating a hate campaign against children like Adam McIntyre or your ex-husband is truly disturbing behavior, and she has participated in both of those. for extended periods of time. But I will stop babbling for now. If you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.